the author of one of the great individual playoff runs in the history of the NBA. The NBA Finals, congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let me start by saying that has to come out of anybody's mouth first on a day like today. But what I can say is this. I don't know if we will ever know if the best team won the NBA Finals. And I don't just say this as a fan. I don't just say this as somebody who supports Tyrese Haliburton. I say this as somebody who experientially lived it. I've only been in one championship game in my adult career. Went to the national championship game in college, playing the University of Alabama before they had ever won a championship. Nick Saban's first one, playing 18 miles down the road in Pasadena. Starting quarterback, Colt McCoy, Heisman runner-up. We're going down the field, driving down the field in that game against the vaunted Alabama defense, and he gets hit by Marcel Darius. He gets hurt. Alabama goes on to win that game because we had to replace Colt McCoy with the true freshman quarterback. Alabama won that game. Shout out to Alabama. The Thunder won that game. Shout out to the Thunder. But did the best team win that game? We'll never know. Because I do not think that Alabama was the best team in that game. Obviously, I'm biased. I played and started that game for the University of Texas. Did the best team win that game last night? I guess we'll never know. Of course, you might want to suggest that the Thunder won that game, but I recall, if I'm not mistaken, the Thunder were trailing at halftime 48-47. I recall Tyrese Haliburton having more points than Miles Turner, Naismith, and Obi Toppin combined. And Tyrese Haliburton played 7 minutes. I recall Tyrese Haliburton having more three-pointers made in 7 minutes than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had in his 40. Than Jalen Williams had in his 40, than Naismith had in his 20-plus, than Turner had in his 20-plus, than Toppin had in his 20-plus, than Mathurin had in his 20-plus. I recall Tyrese Haliburton doing more in 7 minutes than half of his team did in the next 40. So did the best team win that game? I can't fully suggest and say with confidence that the best team did indeed win that game. As I was talking about before the game, the palms were sweaty, weak knees, arms was all tight.
I hear you, Emmanuel. I hear you, Em.
So with that being said, shout out to the Thunder. But Shady, did the best team actually win the finals?
This is wild,
I guess we'll never know.
This Thunder, I will not do y'all like that. I hate to see Haliburton get hurt, but I can't do y'all like that. Y'all earned this thing. Y'all been the best team all season.
All year.
And y'all was the best team in the finals, right? You talk about Haliburton, I won't even talk about him too much because he's injured, and as this brotherhood of sports, especially elite sports, we never even talk about the injuries. But I don't know if he was even the best point guard on his team in his final series. Do you? Let me ask again.
Yeah, he didn't speak English all of a sudden.
And his brotherhood of sports, elite sports,
all of a sudden he spoke a different language.
We don't talk about injuries, but I'll just ask a question. I don't know if Haliburton was the best point guard on his team in the finals. Do you think so?
T.J. McCollum played well.
All right, so let's just keep it respectful. You know, I do think that if he played in this game, the ending would have been the same result, but it might have been a little different. He probably had, like, I don't know, like 17 points, something around there, maybe some more assists. He's got his team more involved, but they just wasn't a better team. That's it. Simple as that. When I kept calling the Pacers a college team, it was more of when you need a bucket, when you need a score, and you go through the whole offense, right? And now the offense is set back again. Who's gonna give you that bucket? They couldn't do it. They couldn't score. Even SGA, if he's struggling scoring, or Jay Will, you know I got somebody I can go to. When the coach is in the huddle drawing up a play, if the offense don't work right there, who can I go to? It was a point in the game where they just couldn't score. And I can't remember what it was around like
8:32 in the third.
8:32 in the third, and all the points came from TJ. Yeah. Going on to the fourth, nobody else could score. It was like 4 minutes. It was like fourth quarter, like 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And since the 8:30 mark and the third, nobody else scored a bucket for the Pacers but TJ.
Turned into a whole different team.
And you talking about who the best team is. Come on, man. And the sad part and the scary part is, I think the OKC Thunder, I think they get better next year. A lot of experience. They're a young team.
They are young.
Man, Acho, you play around if you want to.
We'll get to that. The reason I'm not convinced is this. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander went 8 for 27 from the field. Didn't play a great game.
Nope.
Jalen Williams went 7 of 20 from the field. Didn't play a great game. Meanwhile, Tyrese Haliburton in 7 minutes was 3 of 4 from 3. Mind you, SGA, 2 of 12 from 3. J-Dub, 2 of 7 from 3. Again, Tyrese Haliburton in 7 minutes, 3 of 4 from 3. What I'm trying to convey is that was a game that the Pacers likely would have won based upon the recipe of how that game went. You're telling me Shai went 8 of 27? You're telling me combined the Thunder 2 best players was 15 of 47? 15 of 47? And you want me to believe that the Pacers would not have won that game? It's just hard for me to believe that the Thunder on that day would have been the better team. That's just what's hard for me to believe.
So now we're changing the question. We're changing it from did the best team win the finals to did the best team win Game 7? Right? Right? Because you're going through this little window on any given night. Let me throw March Madness in here, right? And here's the reality: is that yes, and to Shady's point, because this is about the entire season. Mm-hmm. The Oklahoma City Thunder had the best record in the league, in spite of the fact that Chet Holmgren missed 50 games, that Isaiah Hartenstein missed 25 games. They had injuries that could have impacted their season. It was just at a different time, and they overcame that to have the best record in the league so that Game 7 was on their home floor. Because you can't tell me that having it at home didn't make a difference in this Game 7. So if we take into account injuries and suggest that this wasn't a fair fight, or that this should be discounted, this win should be discounted because of an injury, we could do that with almost every championship team. Every championship team. Because surviving the grind of the season is part of the challenge of being a champion, is you are going to face injuries and setbacks at some point. Unfortunately for the Indiana Pacers, they faced their greatest one in Game 7, but it's a little bit like when the Warriors lost KD and they lost Klay Thompson, right? That was a culmination of the season, and it eventually hit them. I remember saying that season, because of all the long runs that they had, and because they were so top-heavy and they relied, much like the Indiana Pacers relied on Tyrese Haliburton so much that, you know what, in this day and age, that relying so much on one player is going to come back and get.
But you would have said in 2019, when the Raptors beat the Warriors, you would have said the best team did not win the finals because the Warriors were a better team.
Well, that's too.
Obviously, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant is not greater than Tyrese Haliburton. But I'm just simply suggesting this isn't always a wild question to ask.
Yeah, no, it's wild in this situation because of how Tyrese Haliburton was playing. Right, so let's not forget how Tyrese Haliburton, and I pray that Tyrese Haliburton gets healthy, but let's not forget how he was playing. Now, if you would have came on this show and the Pacers won and SGA got hurt, I could listen to your statement. The boy got 30, 30, 30, 30. He's clearly the best player not only in the world at this point because he's MVP, but in this series. And I could say, okay, dang, he's out. Tyrese Haliburton and this Indiana Pacers team, he really was a role player on this team for them this year, especially in the finals. He was. That's how he was playing. My man only went over 20 points one time in this series. So you saying the way he started off would have automatically sent him to 30? No. The way he started off would have had him around 20 points, and it still probably would have equaled a loss. So to me, this is not like a KD or a Klay Thompson. Them dudes was balling in the finals. So that's different to me.
But couldn't you suggest this, though, that Tyrese Haliburton is a conduit for everything that happens with the Pacers? He's not going to give you 30 like KD's going to give you. He's not going to give you 20 like Klay Thompson's going to give you. But what he is going to give you is 8 assists. He's going to make sure that Toppin gets involved instead of Toppin having a goose egg. He's going to make sure Miles Turner gets involved instead of Miles Turner, I believe, having maybe 4 or 6 points. He's going to make sure that Naismith gets his shots because Naismith can't create on his own. Wouldn't you suggest that if Tyrese Haliburton is present, he would have done what everybody else could have done, and McConnell wouldn't have had 8 turnovers because all the great things T.J. McConnell did, make no mistake about it, he turned that ball over,
So I'm not saying by any means that they're a better team without Haliburton. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is when Haliburton was on the court this season in the 7-game series in the finals, my man just asked you a question, and you act like you couldn't speak English as he wasn't the third best player on his team. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we're talking Klay Thompson and KD. We're talking dudes that was balling.
Okay, but it's not
That's
as if,
different.
It's not as if Tyrese, I'm going to throw you a lifeline here. It's not as if Tyrese didn't have at least one really good, impactful game.
Not saying he did.
In the finals.
He did. He had game
So
three.
if he had given you a second, look, he was never a scorer. But it was his combination of scoring and getting everybody involved that made him impactful. He was 1 rebound short of a triple-double. If he gives me 1 rebound short of a triple-double in last night's game, then I think it's a much different game. and he did come out aggressive. So there's reason to believe that we might have gotten a special game out of Tyrese Haliburton last night.
That's all
in
I'm
spite
suggesting.
of what we had seen for the better part of the series.
But if we doing that, then we can sit here and say was the best team in the finals. Because they played a Cavs team that didn't have two of their best players.
Yeah.
They started off
fair.
playing
That's
a
fair.
Milwaukee
That's
team that
fair.
didn't have
Fair.
games. So we
That's
can't
fair.
do that.
That's fair.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm not going so far as to say that the Indiana Pacers were the better team. I think the right team won. But to suggest that Tyrese Haliburton had no impact.
No, nobody's saying that.
We're not saying that because he's a good player for them, for sure. But let's just talk about, because y'all act like he gets everybody involved all the time. There's times where he didn't do anything, and Miles Turner had like 4 or 5 points. Finished the game like that. Topping, right? There's times where he went off. Haliburton had nothing to do with that. What we can't do is sit up here and he's hurt, and I hate that he got injured. But let's stop acting like if he was 100% healthy, that they just win this game because he's been playing so great. Because there's a lot of games where he's been absent.
That's true.
A lot of games that they won, he's been absent. We can't find him.
I'm not coming up here and saying with my whole chest that they win the game if Tyrese Haliburton does not stay. All I'm coming up here and saying is I am not convinced that they lose the game if Haliburton is present. I'm not coming up here standing on this desk saying they would have won.
Matter of fact.
But what I'm coming up here and saying is Tyrese Haliburton is a stone cold killer. He's proven that in the playoffs. Tyrese Haliburton in the biggest moments plays his best. This was the biggest moment. He was on pace to play his best, albeit 7 minutes. He usually plays about 30, so he played about 22% of how many minutes he would have played. He was on pace to play his best. History shows against the Cavs. History shows against the series beforehand against the Milwaukee Bucks. He plays his best in the biggest moments, and it looked like he was about to do that.
Can we say this, though? I think he's been like the 3rd best player on the Pacers this finals. Being generous. Let's think about that.
Not being generous, being stingy, you could say it. Being stingy, you could say. You could say you put McConnell ahead of him.
In the finals, I'm taking TJ before him, and I'm taking Siakam before him in the finals.
Being stingy, you
I
could
only
say.
have one issue with what you said. You said he's a stone cold killer.
He had proven to be so in the playoffs.
I think he can be a stone cold killer. There's a difference.
The killer's other side, SGA, that's a killer.
What up, YouTube family? Welcome to the facility. Thanks for watching, and you better be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to get more highlights from the show and all of our exclusive content.